Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint with you today. Welcome back to another edition of our everyday watercolor journal ideas, and we are well on our way to kind of making our way through several days of this series. We have finished our first journal. I am completely done with this one that I started. It wasn't blank when we started, but we've done so much. So let's just take a real quick gander. Oh my goodness, look at all we have done. And we are closing the chapter on this one. Lots we can go back to here on things that we have learned, but it feels super satisfying to complete that. Now, we are going to crack open a brand new journal today. This is my absolute favorite type of watercolor journal right now. This is a Bo Hong 100% cotton, 140 pound cold press watercolor journal. We're going to start on page 1 and have a great little morning painting. And I'm actually going to go back and do some simple, very simple flower paintings. So these are the things that I started painting when I first started to learn watercolor. I did a lot of very simple florals, but before we get into that, I just wanted to show you a lot of the comments that I've seen come up are from commenters who are really engaging with the channel. And a lot of people say, I have a journal, but I'm so afraid to mess it up, so I don't want to start in it. It can be intimidating when you have a brand new, beautiful journal like this. And, you know, it's like when you get a brand new notebook or a planner or something like that, and like cracking the seal can be very intimidating. Well, your journal is just for you. And I want to make that clear. Your journal is not something you have to hang on a wall, give as a gift, display in any way other than to yourself. And it is a record of your progress and how far you have come as an artist. So your journal is precious, but should not be feared. It should be your safe space where you can do anything you want artistically inside there. And to prove that to you, I am going to show you, I was able to dig out some of my very first watercolor journal sketchbooks. They weren't really journals like in the sense like these. They didn't have nice covers. I started out with these, which a lot of you probably have or have used. The Canson XL watercolor paper. This is the Canson Montval, which is supposed to be a little bit better than this, but now that I've used it many years ago, I hate it. If you like it and it works for you, great. I'm not a fan of it. I prefer Canson over the Montval. But I'm going to give you a little glimpse into some of my very first watercolor journals that I ever painted in. So you will see that everybody starts in a place where things are tentative, things don't quite work out how you wanted them to, but you have to start and you have to learn. And I was really proud of some of these paintings, and I'm still very proud of these paintings when I did them, and but they are very different than what I do now. Okay, so this Canson XL one. Now, this one is like not even close to finished. I'm going to start from the back. There's a bunch of blank pages back there, here. I was doing, look, I did my color wheel, my primary and secondary colors, and I experimented with different primary and secondary colors. I was such a good student. Look at all of this experimenting I did with color theory back in the day. Oh, here are some penguins, very cute little penguins, random blank pages I didn't fill in. Some flower practice gone awry. I don't know what this is. Some swatching, some wildflowers with very deep, rich colors, some pretty ethereal, I guess, forests of some kind with pink trees. I have no idea. Lots of experiment and play on this one. And look, something that resembles an actual picture or an image. So I don't know how early on in the process this was. I don't think this was my very first one, but something I definitely worked on. Look at this. I had young kids at the time. We did a guitar painting a dinosaur, painting, look, an elephant, some random patterning of flowers. So these are all some of my first, very unorganized, kind of all over the place, trying all different things. I have very tentative brush strokes in a lot of places, things that aren't finished, but I was experimenting for sure. Landscapes, hand lettering, but it's kind of a little all over the place, and you know, not really, nothing is really finished, but just playing. So these are some of my very first, and if yours are looking like this, you're on the right track, I think, because you know, you just keep painting and painting and painting, and you get more confident with your brush strokes, you get more confident with what you're doing, and you move on to a whole other level of play and experimentation. And you will still have not great days in your journals, like whatever this was. This day I was just painting lines and random things and a fox that did not come out at all. So it's okay. It's okay to have not a perfect and pristine journal. So I just wanted to point that out to all of you and show you that even the person you're following along on a video, you know, we all as artists come from one place and move to the next. And then I went from those to getting better paper, getting better quality supplies. And these are like my etcher books. And I started painting more planned out landscapes. And sorry, I keep hitting the camera and shaking it. Landscapes and objects that were very planned out. I started doing color swatching palettes and using images to use as reference photos. So things got a lot more. But then, you know, here I didn't have a very great plan going on here. I was just experimenting. Doing things like studies, a cloud study later on, lots and lots of flowers and roses. This is when I actually learned how to do roses. My roses were a hot mess for a really long time. So just putting it out there, everything is a process and a journey, and you don't have to get to the destination in the blink of an eye. It's going to take some time. So those of you who are afraid to mess up your journals, go ahead and just paint whatever you want to paint. It's part of the journey, and you too will be able to look back on those first journals, still be proud of the work you did and how it taught you many lessons to get you to where you are today. Okay, so now let's get to painting some simple flowers in our brand new Bohong sketchbook. Okay, here we are in our brand new, the Bohong sketchbook, and I've just clamped my pages on either side. With my brand new book, as things are, when you first open them, they can be a little tight on any sketchbook, especially like a nicely bound sketchbook like this rather than a spiral binding. You just want to be gentle with it, and I'm just opening mine up, but not like breaking the spine, just like you're not supposed to break a spine with a book. So opening it up, and we are going to start with simple flowers. These were some of the things that I first was obsessed with painting. All I wanted to do was paint little tiny florals, and it's all I could really feel confident in painting. Because once I figured out some really simple things, I felt like I could build something really nice and feel like accomplished and successful. All right, so I'm just getting rid of some of these non-flowery colors. We're going to start with, so rosebuds, lavender, thistle, and then this other like petally flower, and coneflowers. Oh my gosh, I was so obsessed with coneflowers. We'll do a really simple one, or echinacea. So I'm going to start with my size 3 brush. So the first one is rosebuds. I loved rosebuds. I still do love rosebuds. All right, I'm going to take some of my Quinacridone Magenta. I'm going to water it way down. And rosebuds are really simple because you're just using the kind of the shape of your brush to create the shape of the flower. So just pressing down. So there's my very first rosebud, that tiny little rosebud up there. And I loved these because you could kind of put together a little rosebud stem or grouping of rosebuds really easily. And I'm just leaving a little white space in a couple of them. I'm going back and widening them. You can see leaving a little highlight. And then while they're still wet, I love this with florals. I'm gonna just get some sap green. And then to do their stems, you can use that same brush or something smaller, but just touching the base of it to, I'll try to zoom in on this so you can see it. Touching the base of it to the paintbrush to the base of it while it's still wet, it bleeds in just a little bit and gives it such a natural and organic feel. Like doing very little made me feel very successful because I felt like it just looked right. It looked good. There we go, a little rosebud. You can add little leaves. Oh, my leaves were terrible when I first started. I couldn't do anything with a leaf. And then also with our little rosebuds, you can drop in darker color while it's still wet too at the base. And it gives us this nice kind of 3 dimensions. These are already dry, so it's not going to kind of do the same thing. But learning really early on that like a little wet on wet, the paint does all the work for you and kind of gives it a more subtle, natural look was really eye-opening for me to be like, oh, I don't have to know exactly how to paint that whole thing. Just drop in a little darker paint over lighter paint. It kind of does its own thing and makes it look really good and presentable. So dropping that in, and then let's drop in a little more green at the very end. A little darker right at the base there, and it just really helps things pop and feel like finished. There we go, some rosebuds, so cute. Okay, so I also used to love lavender or thistle. Let's do thistle first. Let me make sure you can see my palette. All right, thistle, I love to use Ultramarine and Quinacridone. Now, Ultramarine is a granulating color. So what happens is when you paint it, pigments within the color itself separate a little bit. And then if you mix it with other colors, some separation happens on the page. It drives some people crazy. They hate it. But when I really love it for this. So I'm mixing Quinacridone, Magenta, and Ultramarine together. So I have a very blue-ish purple over here, more blue than anything. And then I have a nice pinky purple over here. Okay. And I love this because this type of flower, when I paint it, the separation just gives it something, like it makes it look interesting. So I'm going to start with actually the lighter color. And the thistle, I'm just going to start dragging my brush down with these brush strokes that all kind of scallop towards the center, but they overlap. Okay. There we go. And I'm leaving lots of white space. You see that? So it's kind of this upside down heart shape or a spade shape. And then I'm going to add wet on wet again, some of this darker blue color, this bluish purple. I need to make a little more, make it a little darker. Okay, so just dropping this in kind of along the places that I've already painted, adding a few extra lines on its own, just gives it this really great kind of textured look to it. Same thing with my sap green. And you can change the color of your greens for sure. So you can start with sap green. If you want it to be more of a bluish green, add a little phthalo blue, make it a little darker, add a little Payne's gray. There we go. So we have a nice cool green now. And same thing, kind of dropping it right at the base and then making a little kind of bulb right at the bottom. But letting some of that green run up into the flower itself. These flowers have these really tiny leaves that are like really stiff and tough and woody. And when painting experimentally, like flowers and flower blades, you can make stuff up. You can combine something that looks like a leaf for a rose with an actual rose, or with any kind of flower that you want. You don't have to follow any rules. So let's do, that's our thistle. Let's do, lavender. Lavender is very similar to thistle, but instead of keeping everything up together all the top, we're going to spread it out throughout like a column or a cylinder. I'm going to start, you can put a pencil line down if that helps kind of you follow along the process. So if you put a pencil line down, just knowing you're going to start your lavender up here and kind of follow it all the way down to about here. I'm going to use the same kind of colors here. So I'm going to go a little bit more purple. That's a lot pink. There we go. So this is like a purple purple. I'm going to start at the top with these tiny little petals. And I'm just going to start kind of coming down. I'm going to get a little bit wider as we make our way down the stalk. I'm going to add a little water to my brush, loosen these up. And you can see I'm just moving my brush back and forth. I'm not trying to make perfect individual little buds. And then the magic happens on the stem again. So this kind of, you know, it resembles what we're going for here. I'm going to drop in some more darker color to this already wet little bits. And then I'm going to drop in my stem. So my stem is my green, but I'm just putting it in. Everything's still wet, so I'm letting it touch. I'm trying to be careful, but I'm letting it touch the purple, and I'm just finding the spaces in between the blooms to add in the stem, but I'm not putting it everywhere. I'm not just drawing a straight line up the middle. Just a tiny little line here, a tiny little line there. Your eye knows what to do. Your brain knows what to do to actually build that into a flower. And then you can go and experiment with leaves on this. That was very dry, didn't have a lot of water on there. Make some bigger, longer leaves. To make a longer leaf, just drag your brush longer before you pick it up to a point. And then to make a shorter leaf, just drag it a little bit. Bounce and up, or drag and up. All right. So let's move into the last flower, or maybe I'll do two more. Let's see, what time are we at? We're getting pretty close to time. All right, so I'm going to do another one that is a wet on wet flower. I love this flower. I am going to make, you can use any color you want for this, but I'm going to make a light peachy pink color. Got to get rid of this purple because yellow is going to be involved in this, and I don't want to make brown. So I took some of my Diarylide yellow. You could actually take, I'm going to take some of my cadmium here, or like a lemon yellow or a Hansa yellow light. So my lighter yellow, add a little bit of my Quin to get this orangey peach color, and then add a bunch of water to it. All right, and then I am going to paint in, I have to draw this for you so you can see what I'm doing, because I'm going to paint with water and you're not going to be able to see it. So I just had my pencil. Did I stick it in my hair? Who sees my pencil on my desk? The life of an art teacher, always losing her brush or her pencil. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to draw this for you just so you can kind of see where I'm going to be painting my water, but normally I don't draw any of this. So I'm going to put one big petal in the middle. I'm going to put a petal on the side, but leaving space in between. And I'm going to put another petal on the side, but definitely leaving some white space in between. So kind of these three shapes next to each other, almost connected or connected in some spots, but not everywhere. Okay, and now I have to erase that. So you can't see the lines because this is a very soft and delicate flower. So I'm going to take my larger brush. I am just going to be laying, hopefully it's clean water. This was not clean. It's got like a gray tint to it. But that's okay. That means you can see it. I'm going to be laying down water, making sure there's a little bit of white space somewhere between those. And I'm going to be picking up this pinky peach, and I'm just going to be infusing it, or dropping it into the base. I might kind of come up the sides a little bit, and then I'm going to let that do its thing. What you might want to do too is making a slightly darker version of the color that you already did, or like this is a peachy pink and this one is much more pink, and you can drop even some more of that right at the base. So it's darkest at the base. And same thing with our green. We're going to let it touch the base and go up into the flower just a little bit. And as that continues to spread through the wet on wet technique, it's going to continue to kind of grow up into the flower, but you can definitely see it now. But it doesn't look beautiful. It's so soft and delicate, such a great way to paint a little kind of closed up petal flower. And then, yeah, last but not least, we could do a really quick coneflower, but really quick. Okay, so coneflowers are great. They have like a gumdrop shape. I always put yellow in to start because they have this really bright orangey yellow, and they start with this gumdrop. So it's rounded at the top, widest at the base on the bottom. I'm going to pick up this brush here, and you can do lots of different versions of coneflowers, some that are super detailed and super textured. We're going to do a really simple one where we're just working on kind of form and getting an understanding of the form. So it has this gumdrop in the middle, and then it has these long petals that kind of resemble a leaf shape, and you can touch them to the center. They are connected. And then as you move out to the sides, they start to bend. And you can make these very kind of clean and neat, or really ragged, as coneflower petals actually are. But if you're doing like an illustration, you want them to be kind of clean and neat. You can see I'm leaving some white spaces in a couple of them as highlights. You don't have to, but I think it adds some interest. And look, so see these in the back? These petals are actually significantly shorter, and you're only seeing a little bit of them kind of pop out from the side, and that's called foreshortening. And that gives the illusion that they're wrapping around the back of our center there. And now while that is still somewhat wet, I'm going to take a dark brown. You could take a dark brown, burnt umber, or I'm taking raw umber, sorry, raw umber, a black or a Payne's gray. I'm going to start with a dark brown, and I'm just going to start to add a little bit of touches of this around the edges. And then when this is dry, I'm going to get myself a fine liner brush. Or here's a size 2. This will work just fine with my dark brown. And this really won't work until this is almost all the way dry. So yeah, it's still too wet, but we're going to put fine little lines on there to simulate that kind of the black and brown spikes that are on the center of a coneflower echinacea. Okay, I just paused for a moment so that that could dry and you didn't have to sit here and watch paint dry. So with my fine liner, I'm just going to start at the base and start to put in these fine lines. And some people hate this part when they paint them. They'd rather it be just a little bit more abstract or just like a darker brown that kind of bleeds into a lighter color at the top. But I like this version. So I'm just working my way up to the top, and it's kind of getting lighter and lighter. I'm not refilling the paint as it goes up. And I will leave a spot. And then I'm going to go back to my base and make this even a little darker. Boop, 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 boop. All right, so that's super simple. You could add lots of layers to the petals and textures, but that's all I'm going to do. And then your stem would be wherever the center of your cone is. You have to come directly down from that, kind of find your center, and then put in your stem. Otherwise, it's going to look off if it doesn't follow the center of the cone itself. All right, and that is our coneflower echinacea. All right, so I hope you found this video useful, helpful. Definitely a little blast from the past for me. I really enjoyed kind of repainting these flowers that I tell you, I was obsessed with painting when I first started learning watercolor. They were so accessible, so easy to kind of get into something where I felt like I was painting something that other people could recognize, and it wasn't just water everywhere. Helped me learn water control and feel good about what I was painting. So I didn't jump in and, well, I did, but like we all do, and you try to take on something really challenging or dynamic, like a really big landscape or a face, and do portraiture and or animals like right away as the very first thing you're going to paint. Painting something really simple like this with very simple components can be really confidence boosting. So anyway, thank you so much for painting with me again. I'm Shayna Cersei. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who you think might also like to come on this watercolor journey with us. And check the description for links to supplies and materials, my social media, and the Studio Crew Classroom. All right, y'all, take care. Happy painting.